Hello guys, welcome back to King Designs. So first of all, before I get on with today, I'm going to say that it's been a number of days since the last recording, a number of days since I published the last video, and it's important for two things. If you ever build anything, you need to give it some time after each section at least, and so you can come back with a fresh mind and you can really have a good fresh look at what you've done, and things become more obvious than when you're kind of doing it all in one go and getting caught up in it. So you can step back and say, is this what I wanted? Is there any obvious way to change it? Is it fit for purpose? And then carry on. So that's what I've done. And there are some things that came up in the questions and the comments that were really good, and some things that I want to add into this as I go forward, which is very useful. So there were some questions though, so covering them first before we carry on. One of them was, if I'm firing ender pearls out the side of the world, am I not loading up additional chunks? And I'm going to answer that by no, in my belief anyway. At the moment, if we look at the LC values we're looking at, we're 63 here because that is up there, in this chunk, loading up all of that up to there. If we go out here though, it goes down to 15. If we go over here, it's 15. If it's over here, it's 15, and so on, so on, so on. So, in my belief is once you've loaded up a chunk, so if the world first creates and generates the chunk, especially in the void, your minimum LC value is 15 because it's saying there is a chunk present on the world, but there's nothing in it, so the default is 15 because that's the least it can have in it. So when we're firing things into it, so if we just say that we've got something like there, the LC value is still 15, and it will always be 15 until you go higher than 15. So my assumption is that you're never loading up anything extra, you're just firing into it. So the LC value is saying there is always one chunk flat that you can use for things without loading up additional chunks. That's how I'm going to take it anyway. On the height wise though, as soon as we go up, that's why we're trying to do it as minimum chunks as we can. Next, people were asking about the air blocks and saying that on here they expect that they would only affect things on the same level. Now that may be true, but the point is the algorithm having to spend more time trying to generate things on here, because once they've found a spot, it tries to generate mobs a few times. If it fails straight away, would it make any difference at all? Just a curiosity thing, and we'll see if it makes any difference at all when I benchmark it against my previous design. And leads us on to why 16 wide. Well, there is no reason apart from I want to first of all benchmark this against my previous design and see how it performs against that, say if we made an improvement or not, especially when it comes to redesigning platforms and looking to see if I need to change it or not, or if I just need to update it to 1.5. And some suggestions were saying 21 wide, Impulse suggested 21 wide, and then once we test it on 16 we'll have a benchmark time for level 30, then we'll try 21 and so on and see how it changes. Just a bit of testing on top of that. Next thing, someone said that, and I thought of this as well, but glad it got brought up. A filter for items was suggested, so that if you threw anything in here that you don't want to lose, so like a sword or something, it wouldn't be thrown out into the void. Now we can set up a filter in here somewhere, so that maybe one chest has items that you want to keep, and then two items or two chests of ender pearls, and then the overflow ender pearls go out into the void. So look at introducing that today and try and get that in there nice and compact. Second of all, well, next was asked quite a few times, why do I have to have this at y equals 1? Why do I have to have this clock down here? No, why can't I just move up one and have it silent? And the answer is, at the moment, when you do any designing, you want to make it as bare bones as you can, as practical as you can, and as effective. So having it down as low as it can makes this platform down as low as it can. Therefore this whole farm goes downwards if you're building the same height platforms. So when it comes to building platforms, some of these platforms may be 3 high or 4 high or something like that. When we go up with layers, you may get to the 128 point up there that we don't have to go beyond, and you may have a couple of layers clearance. If you do, and those layers can't be used for extra spawning platforms, then this can be easily moved up and changed around. But doing this to begin with, we know that we have the maximum height up there we can, if we need to make use of it. So you always build things in contingency wise, so that if you need it, you can use it. If you don't need it, you can change it afterwards. Because this is only the first mock-up, this would all be rebuilt again when we know how high the whole thing will be in the end. So, I think that's about all the questions I had from the last video. Now I'm going to look at redesigning this into a sorting system as well, still on the bottom floor as we can, see if we can get that working, and then we'll look at different designs that I've had before and new designs for platforms, and then we'll try a few of them out. Now this isn't an easy thing to test until this bottom bit is complete, so we'll look at some designs of that first and then we get on with carrying on. So back in a minute. After a bit of work I've come up with this, and this is going to give us a top chest with items that are not ender pearls, and then 2 chests of things which are ender pearls. I do use these just to make it easier to test things, and then all the extra get fired out the back. So that's the theory. Now because of how I set it up, it's quite compact-ish. You could probably do a bit smaller somehow, but for the moment I'm not too concerned. What we've got here is the inflow from the lift, comes into this bit here. And yes, it is a lot of hoppers, don't worry. This one then comes to here, so this one will get all of the ender pearls taken out of it from this one and then be sent into the sorting system, which will then go into this chest here and this chest here. If these 2 hoppers are filled up, then it will flow into this back bit and come out here. Same detection as last time, apart from it's a little bit weird wiring to make it so that this doesn't interact with the sorter and you can still have them next to each other. A little bit different there. Yeah. And here, if the item isn't sorted down through the ender pearls, it goes through this bit here and into the top chest. And that's how I set it up, and that's how it works. So I'll just throw a few things in here. We'll do some ender pearls and we'll do some of them. We'll turn this on and move this around slightly so it's a little bit more compact, but it's basically the same thing. So in the top bit we'll get some things coming through which are not ender pearls, and then ender pearls come through the back and ender pearls only, and that's fine. And these ones will fill up a bit. Now because this torch here is locking this one, when items coming through this system, it will let this one go and let some items go into this one and into the bottom hopper. So if I do this, at the moment they'll come in because it's just an inventory. If I block the back off, then these will not go into this chest unless there's something being sorted. So the problem would be if you took all of these out. That's finished sorting that. If you took all of the items out of the middle chest, then it wouldn't refill itself until some more ender pearls went through the system, but it's not a really big concern, to be honest. And the bottom one would always be full if there's anything left in the system. It's a little bit different, and the top one obviously has that stuff in. So that's what I've had in mind so far. Now I'm going to set up some different types of platforms we could use, and then we'll start testing them. So back in a bit. Okay, so set up a few example platforms that I could choose for this design. Now I always want to do my own thing, so I'm not going to go straight forward and do another design someone else has done, because that's not my thing. And to be honest, if everyone did the Minecraft, then there wouldn't be any progression at all. So this is my original design that I had before. You get a piston, gets powered by a tripwire, you push into the middle. This allows a 1 wide farm because the actual hooks themselves don't activate tripwire. And you get 1 piston per spawning space activated by 1 enderman. So it frees up all the other spawning spaces for as many endermen as you want, and it lets, because it's like this, you can stack the design each way and keep going up. But there is something that may have become an issue in 1.5, and that's that when you power 1 piston, it actually kind of buds the pistons next to it. Now I think it's a redstone bug, because they changed how the things update. I don't think they should update like that, but we have to work with what we're given. So that's what now happens. The test is to see if that actually makes any difference at all. So let's go jump onto my old Enderman Farm and we'll just have a quick look to see if that's changed the rates of experience or not. Okay, so here's the previous design of the hooker. Now you can see easily that there is 100% air blocks on each spawning platform, so it looks really good. But we need to see if this makes any difference at all on the actual experience rates, because 1.5 and the 1.4.7 update. There was a small problem here with having things getting stuck because it's one wide farm, but that can be remedied by a Piston Crusher, so you don't need to worry about that. But as it was on the previous one, it was 53 seconds for level 30. Now we need to test that again, and I'll probably just put a timer on the screen. I'll do it real time, and we'll see how quick it is compared to now. If it's got less, then we know it's a problem. If it's not, then we know that the design is still valid and no need to worry about it. So it's game mode 0, and I'll stop punching. Nice, easy, random test. And we'll see how long it takes to go to level 30, and then we'll be back. So, there's another problem with any farm, and I might as well talk about that while I'm doing this, and that's redstone. Now, some people will be confused why we say this farm uses no redstone, it's really good. And that's because redstone gives off light. Now light getting to the platforms will slow down spawns, and that's what you don't want. Also on the fact of LV values, or LC values, when you're loading up light on platforms, if that light then spreads out past the platform itself onto the chunk next door, then you're loading up additional chunks, and that's really bad. So it kind of destroys the whole idea of having the least chunks possible. And that's probably already got 30. Okay, so timestamp that on the video itself, and I get back to you when I get back to the other design. Okay, so I rewatched the footage and I checked the time on the timestamp, and it was 52.5 seconds, which is what it was doing anyway. So having 3 pistons going whenever one spawns is not actually any noticeable problem at all. So there's no worry with that. I could carry on using that design and it would be fine. But as always, you might as well look at other options at the same time. Now, even though you think you might end up with the same thing, you need to know that that's a reasoned decision, not just because you really liked that one. So the other way of changing it around so that only 1 piston goes per go is to do them this way around. So just swap the piston over the tripwires. Now it works, and pushing from the head is a good design as well, but there is a problem with it, because as I demonstrate here, this is the normal design. This is all the air blocks on each level, like so. But when you move on to using this design, so when you have the tripwire underneath, when you get to the next spawning platform, like so, then this piston here is blocking up the air block. So in theory it might be less efficient, but on the other hand, if you look at these kind of model bits here, here's 2 representations of a few stacks of each design. So each gold block is a spawning platform, so you've got to outweigh less air blocks with more spawning pads. So in here we get 1, 2, 3, 4 in that distance to there, and same distance we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So this 4th one here is the same as that one over there. So if that point up to there, you've got the same amount of spaces, so you may be able to fit in maybe a quarter more platforms. Then you've got to look at the resources, because at the moment this uses not very many resources, my original design. So it's actually very effective and efficient on the resources for experience. So that many pistons gets you 53 seconds. Then you look at, if you did the whole thing with this, you may be able to fit in some more platforms, but would they actually increase the rates at all? Or are they just making it more costly? Because you're losing air blocks and the rest. So it's something we have to design now and have a play with. So I'm going to spend a long time now. I'm going to make a copy of my previous world for the hooker, make it all into this way of looking, leave the rest the same so we know that it's a systematic thing. Then we'll check out the time on that one. So I'll be back after I've rebuilt the other one. Okay, rebuilt the farm to the other specification, also added some outside bits for guards, and also put some half subs here for no spawning. Now if the spawning pads work through them, then you could have that up there or so, and it would be better, but for the moment we're just testing it like that. So we'll know if this is better than the previous one, then we even may have some room for improvement. But we'll have a little look at how efficient this is. So, same deal again. we're going to go and do a recording of the time. Let's see. So, game mode. Sound off. You know the drill. And time starts. So, this one is going to be using an awful lot more pistons than the previous one. The other one used a lot less. Quite a lot less. Oop, dipped up there. So, if this is around 50 seconds, I know to do some more testing. If it's over that, then no. But mostly on these, it's just how fast you can actually kill the Endermen themselves, which is quite an annoying thing because it's hard to tell if the Endermen are getting replaced quick enough or not. But this seems quite good so far. Usually they thin out a little bit when you get near 30 because you can kill them so fast in these designs that no matter how fast they're spawning, no, you can kill them really, really fast. Now I can't see what I'm doing. So we'll have a look at the timestamp for this in a second, and then I'll be back to you when there. So, be right back. Okay, so I did some additional testing and came out that it was basically the same results as the previous farm. Now this can mean two things. One of them is that I can't physically kill them fast enough to go any faster to level 30. Second of all, because when I was ending up finishing killing them, my level was about 34. So I maybe have killed more in the same time as I did previously. Maybe. Don't know. But then the point is this producing Enderman faster rates than the previous one? Yes or no? But then does that actually matter if I'm only looking at to 30? But now we've got anvils and we can use really expensive enchantments, up to 47 I think it is on anvils you can do nowadays in survival. You may want to go higher than 30. So the stringent test would be tracking both to say level 50. It's going to take me a while, but I think I will do both farms to level 50 and just see what the time difference is, because the point is, on my original one, Endermen do eventually start to thin out, which isn't a problem because you don't need them after that. You wait a few seconds and they're full again. But this one may be that I can keep going for longer at a higher rate of experience. Would be worth a try. So I'm just going to do both separately and I'll just tell you the results afterwards. Just an easy way of doing it. I don't want to flip the whole video of just that. So we'll be back after that test. Okay, so I tested the farm, both of them to level 50. This one was 3 minutes and 28 seconds and the previous one was 4 minutes 14. So quite a heavy difference there between the two. So it shows that this one produces Endermen of higher rate, but to level 30 they're identical because you can't kill them any faster. You just physically can't, it seems. And I did also test changing this, see if I got any more air blocks in the system, and there was no difference at all, it seemed. Although up to level 50 it's hard to say a few seconds either way, but I moved them from there all to there, put some extra ones out. So I'm just saying that this doesn't need to be here at all. I'm just going to do this probably just to save some space and make it easier to build itself. No really need to change that at all. But the thing I need to remedy now is this problem we had with this farm, which is when the Enderman gets stuck. Quite spectacularly sometimes, if they all bundle up. It doesn't happen very often, but it does, and that needs to be remedied now. So I need to look at how I can change that to allow for them. Once I've got that sorted, then we can look at finalising the farm. So I think I'll do this version for my Let's Play definitely, because it's really nice and I'm not concerned at all about resources. But when I do a brand new set of tutorials, I'll probably do one for the updated hooker and then one for this one, or just merge them together into one tutorial, but do present two farms, because one would be the efficient one on resources and time, and this one's a more expensive one but better overall, I guess, if you're doing high level enchantments. So I'm going to look at how I'm going to change this bit here, and then we'll revert back to the other world, and then we'll get on with building the final design. So back in a minute. Okay, so I made a design which I'm quite happy with at the moment, and it seems to be very reliable. I've done quite a few hours of actually testing this and making sure that I'm happy with what it's actually given me as a result. So all it consists of is two sets of vines. They come down here. Any of them that stray to the left hand side get pushed back by this detector and the piston itself. Now there is a small chance that they get stuck down onto this platform here, and they do stand there and walk around, and they do activate the pistons above them. It is okay though, because I tried to do lots of different ones, and a lot of them gave a higher percentage of mobs being pushed over to the correct side, so less of them getting stuck here. But the ones that were pushed over there had a level of fall damage applied to them from this drop here. So when they came down there, they had their full reset here instead of up here. So they had maybe 3 hearts or a couple of hearts or a heart and a half or something. Anyway, different from the half a heart for everyone else. So the Piston Crusher down here was not working as I wanted it to, because you'd crush them and only maybe 2/3 of them would die and the rest would not. But I demonstrate down here at the moment, and I hope it is the case still. As these will come down, some of them are being pushed, some of them haven't. If I just use this full reset, the full reset was the killer, you see they all died. Now that's what I wanted. I wanted to have a nice uniform approach, otherwise that killer there would be pretty useless. And even now there's a very, very small chance of they will come down with a tiny bit extra health, and if I have it on kill mode, then a couple of them do survive now and then. Now with this, of course I'm using beacons for regen, that's a given, and I'll probably add another one for strength and something else, just to make sure that anything with a more than half a heart health will always be killed by the player. But that's a bit of a minor thing on top of that, because it doesn't happen very often. As you see up here, there is one there already. Now they will either fall down their own accord, or they will despawn in the 50-second timer, and that's perfectly fine for me. I've tested out the rates to see if they've changed at all by doing this, because 1 or 2 get stuck now and then. It doesn't actually make any difference at all to any of the timings that I've actually measured so far, so I'm perfectly fine with that. It doesn't really bother me at all. So I'm pretty happy with the design so far. Now we need to look at how we are going to fit this into our design on the main one. So I'm going to go over there now and set up a few things, and then be back to give a go of how we're going to progress. Okay, so we're really moving to the final steps of this farm design, and it's really exciting now because we are settled on a design for the floors. Yes, I bet so many people said so far, I can't afford all the iron. In this day and age, an iron farm is so easy to make, it just don't even go near there. And to be honest, if you grind a bit for some iron, it will definitely be worth it. So I like using lots of tripwire hooks in this, and that's something I do. I have to deal with that one. And I'm not building this for other people, I'm building this for myself, and if you want to use it as well and you agree with the methodology, go ahead and you'll end up with a very nice farm. If you want something really, really cheap, go for a different design. No, it's just different. So I am quite glad how this turned out actually, because as this is on y=1, that's the lowest level we could use, and all this is set to be the lowest level as well. In actual fact, this has worked out exactly how high I can have it. So this is the cross section of what I'm going to go for. I'm moving, instead of having this bit on there, I'm just going to move it up here. Just a little bit easier, and also gives you something to step on when you're actually building it, I guess. It could be easier that way. That's thinking about you guys as well. And also, because mobs can't spawn on top of pistons, this 3 high gap here is irrelevant, and this high here can't get an Enderman to fall down to that bit, so it doesn't actually matter there. And we go right to the top, and we get onto the LC. You see that it's 127, and also this block here, if you look on the Y, this one here is 128, so that's the highest you can possibly have it, because then if I go on and put a block on top of that, you go to 143. That's not what we wanted. If I relog, that will disappear again when it updates the actual chunks. So that's as high as I can have it, loading up 1 to 8 blocks, and this works out exactly so that this is 1 extra floor. In total there are 40 floors which fit exactly into this, giving about 50% extra spawning spaces than my original hooker farm. Also 50% more pistons as well. So I will be giving both options to do this one or the old hooker design, because the hooker design is very, very efficient, but not the best if you're going to grind here for hours and hours and hours doing really, really high level enchants. Now, it's just a difference of opinion, whichever one you fancied. And now I know how big this whole farm is going to be, so it's going to stick out 2 from each side. And I'll put in the piston pusher here. It doesn't really matter, I just mapped out where it would go. So that's all fine and good. We know how big the farm is itself, so now we know where we can put it on our base. Still thinking about this option of having 21 wide or 16. We still have to test that, and it's not hard to test as it is. So what I want to do now though is, before I come up with the final width of the farm, I do have to sit here and test again the whole thing. So I can sit here and finish up this bottom bit, just so that it's spawn proof for mobs. Then I need to put this piston pusher in, and then wire all of these up all the way across for 16. Check the time on it to see if we've changed at all from the original, and it may not. We'll have a look. And then I can extend this up until here, and then have 21 wide and have a see if that makes any difference at all. Could be good, could be bad. Now once I wide it up first time, then I can just add on another 5 rows and then just track them afterwards if I need to. So to see if that's going to make a difference at all. And then this is the final touch to do for some enchanting room or anything else you want to do. And assuming I am correct on the whole bottom chunk always loaded anyway, doesn't matter what you put in it, do feel free just to put random stuff in the bottom and map it out however big you want. I don't think that will be a problem at all. So some people wanted to have sugarcane farms and book farms and stuff and cows and things. Go ahead and do that however you seem fit. It's not one we're doing in my farm itself. You know, if I have somewhere in my spawn chunks collecting books and stuff, then I can just bring 10 stacks of books down here and not really worry about it. I don't really want to be doing anything here apart from enchanting and grabbing ender pearls. Just what I want to do here. So I'm going to map all that out, and I'll get back to you when this design is done up here, when the piston pusher is in and the bottom bits is made mob proof. So back in a minute. Okay, Enderman Farm is finished for a 16 wide. Perfect example I would expect. I've just made it good enough inside so that mobs can't go in here. They're just really basic. We've got chests for random stuff, ender pearl, and then the out goes to the out. Now I was thinking of having maybe a tripwire here, detecting if you're standing here to then put on the timer or not, but I don't know, I'm just thinking about it, I'm not really sure, don't know if I want to do that or not. And here I've just got the same button as before for the swap, if you ever wanted to use that. It's just there for fun really, to be honest. So let's go give this a little test run. I've already done it a couple of times, so I know that it's the same speed as the one we already tested before. But I'm going to do the same test again to level 50, mark down the results, and then I'm going to finish off by looking at the 21 wide version and seeing if that makes any noticeable difference at all, good or bad. Okay, so put a beacon for speed, strength and regen, just so that you don't starve when you're killing the Enderman, and also the strength in case any of them have higher amounts of life, although I don't think any of them actually do when they come through. And it comes at exactly the same time as the previous farm looking like this, which is quite reasonable because the other farm was down as low as it can, so there's only a minute difference between the two. So this is a very good result. Now what I have to do to test finally is a different width. Now 16 I've been using for everything so far. I'm going to change it to 21, just add all that on the end, shift the wiring across a bit and spread all of these out on a separate copy of the world, and then we'll look at that result then. Okay, so I didn't actually get to 21 wide, and the reason for this is that every extra one width I did a time to level 30 and a time to level 50, every single additional one, and from 16 to 19 there was not a single difference whatsoever, absolutely none. So looks now at why is it saying the same. So it's nothing to do with the Enderman being replaced quicker or not, it's how fast I can physically punch them in this design, and I don't really think you're going to go any better than that no matter how wide it is. Actually the wider you go it'll be thinner, so you may even go less, but anyway, Up to 19, it didn't make any difference at all, and that means you're adding on 20% of the cost for no extra gain in time, because that's all we actually want. We don't bother about how much volume of Enderman going through, it's just the actual raw time at the end. So I'm going to go back to 16 wide design, because I don't see any reason at all to go bigger than that. And we're going to go even more clever though. We're going to look at seeing if I can start taking layers off the top, because obviously in farms you reach maximum potential. If you don't need any more Endermen to get the level 30 or level 50, you don't need as many platforms, but then that makes it cheaper. And my old farm is really cheap compared to this one, but you need to look at if I need less layers at the top. Instead of messing around with everything else, just have less layers at the top. Then you're lowering your LC values, so you may even increase the spawning algorithm time and make it even better. So I'm going to test that now. I'll go back to 16 wide, take off a whole chunk at the top, see if it makes any difference at all. Every piston I save makes it a cheaper farm, makes a lot of people more happy. Doesn't really bother me very much, but it makes people happy. So I'm going to test that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, testing is complete. I tested both the 16 wide version and the 19 wide version I had a copy of. I took off a whole chunk at the top, so the LC value went to 111 instead of 127. So here it's 111, very good. And the differences were, they were interesting. So on the 19 wide, the big one, on the LC value 111, it was 3 minutes 40 to level 50. So you lost 12 seconds in that from the original height. Saving 2 stacks of pistons plus 12 seconds could be worth it, but having the wider farm, you use tons more pistons to begin with, so you don't really want to be doing both. Making it shorter and fatter isn't really the way to redistribute pistons. So on this one, this is 16 wide. When I made this to LC value 111, so off goes the whole chunk at the top, it went to 4 minutes 16, so really a big increase in time there, 20% kind of increase. So that may be noticeable, and you may not want that one, and they were noticeably thinning out on this. So I think that is all the testing I have for you guys. My final design will be this version, maybe with one layer at the top, so that I have some room down the bottom to add some circuitry or some hoppers down the bottom or something. That one layer I know won't make any noticeable difference at all. I just know that it will work doing that, and that way I can just make it nice and have a silent elevator here, and maybe add in some bits for leather and stuff if I really want to, because we know the bottom layer shouldn't make any difference at all, either make as big or as small or whatever. I could put stuff in there and it doesn't really bother me at all. So that will be the final design. 16 wide. I don't want to go any thinner than that because I end up losing too many spawning spaces, and I just feel 16 is a nice size. No reason to go any wider than that. And 16 wide, about 40 layers. Very nice. So thank you for joining me guys on my little journey of building this Enderman farm. I will come up with the final version in my Let's Play soon, and then I'll do a proper tutorial with the final finished thing, completely finished, at the end. So if you're looking forward to that, if you want to give me a like or anything, really appreciate it. A lot of time and effort goes into building these things and designing them off camera. You don't even know how many hours these things take, and it's really nice to see that people are enjoying seeing that happen and the sort of process I go through to do it. So thank you very much for joining me guys. Any suggestions, leave it in the comments, and I'll see you next time.